All right, everyone. So I just got out of a BS 2-week suspension from YouTube, which has been canceled as of yesterday. YouTube did a second strike on my channel for literally no reason. No reason whatsoever. Complete bullshit. Complete garbage. And they said that I was spreading hatred. I have to laugh at this because, I mean, ever since the massacre of the Jews took place on October the 7th, I have been talking about the evils of anti-Semitism, the evils of the far left against Israel, the evils of the far right. I have been talking about how hatred against Jews is rising up and how it's evil and it's destructive and it'll eventually lead to a genocide. I have been warning people about a future genocide of the Jewish people. And I have been going against hatred, not spreading hatred. I have been going against hatred of the Jewish people. And YouTube writes me one day and says, hey, we took down one of your videos and we are going to do a second strike on your channel, which means you will be suspended for 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, you will not be able to do any posts, any uploads, and you will not be able to live stream. And I'm like, for what? What in the hell have I done? And they said, well, it's because of this particular video. And this is what the email said. It's because of this particular video. And the video was me for like 36 minutes speaking out against people who hate Jews. And speaking out against people who support Hamas. And support and people who cheer on the massacre of the Jews that took place on October the 7th. And in that video, I played several clips at the beginning. And the video is back because YouTube said, hey, turns out that this strike on your channel is complete BS. So you can watch the video. At the beginning of this video, I played 3 clips, each of which shows a person frothing at the mouth or acting giddy at the idea of, or really at the reality of what took place on October the 7th, which was a massacre of 1,300 Jewish people. And in one clip, it showed some activist in a rally, anti-Israel, pro-Palestine rally, and he's like, yeah, them, those Hamas militants, those freedom fighters, they were gliding into Israel, ready to slit them Jews' throats. All I can say is good job. And it was very disturbing, very demonic.
I think that we should all give an applaud right now to Hamas for a job well done. When they woke up in the morning and they found the field hands in the house with a knife ready to cut their fucking throats. I was late to the news, but when I heard it, I said, I don't want to hear that bullshit. 250 innocent Israelis are dead. Fuck them! Again, I swear. I salute Hamas. A job well done.
Evil, just evil. Like, how could you be that vitriolic, that vicious, that ruthless, cruel, sadistic? How? This is not the way that we as humans should be acting. This is not someone with humanity. This is someone with a demon. This is somebody who's demon possessed, all right? Demonically possessed or demonically influenced. So I played that clip just to give you guys an example of this hatred that has been rising up. And then I showed another clip of a professor talking about how he was exhilarated. I was exhilarated at hearing the news of Jews being massacred.
It was exhilarating. It was exhilarating. It was energizing. And if they weren't exhilarated by this challenge to the monopoly of violence, by this shifting of the balance of power, then they would not be human. I was exhilarated.
Yes. And he's in a rally. Anti-Israel, pro-Palestine rally. It's just insane But the whole anti-Israel hysteria, this is what it leads to. It leads to the justification of mass murder. That's what it leads to, justification of mass murder. And then I played a clip of a professor, a very famous professor, and probably the most prominent anti-Israel voice in America. It was Professor Norman Finkelstein. And I played this clip from Professor Norman Finkelstein, in which Norman Finkelstein is acting giddy at the fact that Jews were massacred on October the 7th. And he's saying it was... He called the massacre an orgy of vengeance. And he said, and it was an orgy of vengeance.
I wonder how many opposed what happened when the prison gates of Gaza were burst open, and how many of them reacted just like Black people in the South reacted to Nat Turner, even though it was well known that the order Nat Turner gave out was, quote, kill all the whites, which is what they proceeded to do. And again, I want to say that the more I hear about this Saturday, and I think that many details I verified many details, and the atrocities were there. But it taught me that people came, not all, not the majority, a few, but it only tells me how the pressure that has built up, how monstrous the pressure was to create those monstrous attacks in one day.
And this is someone who described it as an orgy of violence.
Yes, orgies of vengeance. At least that's what I have here, orgies of vengeance. Which it was. When I read the chapter in the biography where it described what they did, there's a long chapter, I told you, Nat Turner and his supporters. It was an orgy of vengeance. It was an orgy of vengeance, which I think was true. It was born of that chasm between who they were, who they aspired to be, and this hapless fate of being born into slavery or born into a concentration camp. If that sounds like, the French expression, to understand is to excuse. If that sounds like excusing, well, guess what? Excuse me. But I think it's the truth.
It was an orgy of vengeance. And he's giddy and getting emotional about it. And it's just creepy. It's very creepy. So I showed these clips. I showed the activist who said, yeah, slit Jewish throats. I showed a professor who said, yeah, I was exhilarated upon hearing about Jews being massacred. And I showed this Norman Finkelstein guy. Say it was an orgy of vengeance. It was an orgy of vengeance. Imagine living in an open-air concentration camp for 25 years. Those young men, they had vengeance. They were taking revenge upon the Jews who were running this concentration camp. It was an orgy of vengeance. They were in that chasm between what they could have been and the reality of living in a concentration camp. Like, just crazy, crazy stuff like this. So I was exposing this evil, exposing it. And I was telling people, like, hey, this hatred against the Jews is getting more and more. It's becoming more and more to the point where it's becoming something almost acceptable by a lot of people. And people see it as justified, or they see it as no big deal. And they'll say, well, I understand why Hamas killed those people, as if there is as if we can have an understanding as to why people just want to go and rape and murder children and set people on fire and burn people alive. Oh yes, I can understand why. Oh yes. It's sickening. It's just very sickening. So I did this video, and I spent 36 minutes attacking people, criticizing people who are vehemently anti-Israel, extremely pro-Palestine to the point where they will justify terrorism. And I've talked about how this phenomena of being anti-Jewish, this phenomena of people who hate Jews, is amongst the far left and the far right. And I went against the far right, and I went against all that evil. I mean, I was just, you could, if you didn't know who I was, you could maybe guess, or maybe somebody would assume that I was a liberal, right? People could assume that I was a liberal. Like, this is some liberal guy, sounds like a Democrat, attacking the far right, oh my gosh. And YouTube sends me an email saying, your video breaks terms of service, and so we're going to do a strike on your channel, and you're going to be suspended for 2 weeks. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I could not believe it. Now, I have been penalized by YouTube numerous times over the years. I've been YouTubing since I was in high school, so I've had numerous strikes done on the various channels that I've run. And many times I have had strikes on my channel, and I'll say, okay, I understand why, right? I may not have agreed with the strike, but I would say, okay, I understand why YouTube did a strike on my channel, right? I've said things that are against the terms of service. So yeah, YouTube has done penalties on my channel. YouTube has struck my channel, and I'll look back and I'll say, yeah, I understand why they did that, right? Because I have said things that were and are against the terms of service. But this one, I was like, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. I spent 36 minutes speaking out against hatred against the Jewish people, and I get penalized for that. And I get told that what I said in the video is against TOS, against the terms of service. No. So, of course, I appealed it. And I was expecting that YouTube would say, you're right, the video does not go against TOS, we're putting the video back. Because I've had this thing happen to me before. Numerous times in the past, YouTube has put strikes on my videos, and I will appeal it. And most of the time, YouTube will say, you were right, the video did not break terms of service, we're putting the video back up, and we are ending whatever punishment we put on your channel, right? Be it a 2-week suspension or a 3-day suspension. And 2 hours later, YouTube gets back to me and they said, no, the decision stands. Your video will remain erased and your 2-week suspension remains. You will be suspended for 2 weeks. And that's it. So I said, okay, this is complete nonsense. I am going to speak with someone on YouTube. I was bent on this. I was very persistent. And I said, I need to speak with someone who works in YouTube. This is crap. And so I did some research, and I found that YouTube has this help center. And this must be very new because I had never seen this before. YouTube has this help center where you can actually speak to a robot. Yes, you can speak to an AI representative, a YouTube representative who is not human, who is just a computer, an AI program. It's like talking to Agent Smith on The Matrix, or Agent Brown, some agent on The Matrix. Not human, not a human being. But anyway, they have this instant message system now where you can speak to an AI representative. And the AI representative talks back to you, and you talk to the AI representative, and you go back and forth. So I wrote, and so the name of this robot was Rouge, like Moulin Rouge, Rouge. That was the name of this robot. So I said, Rouge, YouTube is saying that I broke the terms of service, but the video that YouTube has penalized does not break the terms of service. In fact, the whole video is against people who hate the Jews and who spread hatred, and YouTube is saying that I was spreading hatred in this video, but I wasn't spreading hatred of anyone. Maybe with the exception of Nazis, maybe I was spreading hatred for Nazis and anti-Semites, but I wasn't spreading hatred in the sense that I was breaking the rules against the spreading of racism or anything like that. I wasn't spreading anything like that. anti-Semitism, absolutely was going against anti-Semitism the entire time. How in the hell could YouTube tell me that I'm spreading hatred? This is complete nonsense. Hatred for who? Maybe Nazis? So the AI robot Rouge gets back to me, and the robot says, well, let me take a look at the situation. Could you give me your email address, blah, blah, blah. I gave him the email address. The robot gets back to me and says, sorry, your video has been penalized for breaking the terms of service, which in this case was spreading hatred, and we want to keep YouTube a safe place. And I'm like, excuse me, Rouge, Mr. Robot, I did not break the terms of service. The video does not break TOS. The video is not spreading hatred. The video is not spreading anti-Semitism. The video is against hatred for the Jews. How in the hell could you say that I'm spreading hatred? And the robot went back and said, I know that you are very upset, Theodore. I understand why you are disappointed, but we must keep YouTube a safe place. You have a nice day. And I said, no. I want to speak to a human, Rouge. Mr. Robot, I want to speak to a human. So the robot said, let me get back to you. A few minutes later, I get a message. And this time the messages from the messages I was getting at this point seemed human. And I was getting a message from someone named Donnie. And I was thinking, is it a someone or is it a something? But I'm pretty certain that this was from a someone, a somebody, because the messages seemed human in the way that it was written. It was more personal. So this person was writing me, and this person said, hey, my name is Donnie. I work in the YouTube management board, and I understand that there is a problem. You say that you were wrongfully penalized, that you got a wrongful strike on your channel. What seems to be the problem? Give me the story. So I explained to this person named Donnie the situation, and I said, this is bullshit. I wasn't spreading hatred of any race, any ethnicity, any religious group. I was speaking out against people who hate the Jews and who spread hatred for the Jewish people. That's what I was doing in that video. 36 minutes of me attacking the far right, attacking racists, attacking the Nazis, attacking Nazism, warning people about a coming genocide of the Jewish people, warning people that if this hatred against the Jews continues, there will be a genocide. This is what the video was about. Wasn't breaking terms of service, nothing. This 2-week suspension is bullshit. So Donnie's like, listen, I'm going to get this video to the review board, and I'm going to get back to you. Give me a couple of days. I said, okay. Thank you, Donnie. I hope Donnie is a human being. I'm pretty certain Donnie is a human being because the way he was writing didn't sound like I was talking to a robot. Anyway, Donnie eventually gets back to me. He got back to me yesterday. And he said, Ted, Theodore, your video has been determined to have not broken any of the rules. The manager, the people who reviewed it, or the person who reviewed it, concluded that your video does not break the rules. And I was like, yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you. Thank you, Donnie. So the 2-week suspension was canceled. The strike on the video was removed because it's complete crap. But what does this tell me? What does this tell me? Because I was so frustrated by this. I'm thinking, okay, I've had 3 channels removed by YouTube. And so when I made this particular channel, I decided, okay, I'm not going to go against the rules. I'm going to keep it within the rules. If I want to say something that is very controversial and that would be considered against TOS, I will simply do the video on Rumble and BitChute, which doesn't really have a whole lot of censorship, especially BitChute. I don't think has any censorship. Rumble, I think, has some, but not to the point where it becomes really annoying like with YouTube. But I decided for this channel, I want to see how far I can go with this YouTube channel that I'm using right now. And I'm going to keep it within the rules. I'm going to keep it kosher. And that's it. I'm going to keep this channel for expressing my views on geopolitics, ideology, music, culture, have fun on the live streams. That's pretty much it. And here I was doing a video against the far right, against racism, against anti-Jewish hatred. And YouTube says I'm spreading hatred. And I was thinking, before this guy got back to me to tell me that I didn't break the rules, I was thinking, you know what? I'm going to leave YouTube. And my plan was, after the 2-week suspension was over, I would simply do one more video for this channel to let you guys know that I'm out. And if you want to continue watching my content, just to go on Rumble or BitChute, and that's it. That was my plan. My plan was, hey, as soon as this 2-week suspension is over, I'm gonna do one more video, because if they're gonna penalize me for speaking out against Nazism and for speaking out against anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish hatred, and all that, speaking out against Hamas and Hamas sympathy, terrorist sympathy, if they're gonna penalize me for that, then I might as well just leave YouTube, because they're going to destroy my channel anyway if I continue on. They're just going to destroy my channel, because if they're going to get me for speaking out against Nazism and the far right, I mean, they're going to get me for any damn thing. It's complete bullcrap. So that was my plan. My plan was to simply just go on Rumble and BitChute, and the reason why I would go on BitChute is because somebody lives in France, and it turns out that Rumble is illegal in France because Rumble refused to get rid of any sort of Russian propaganda YouTube channel. So France said no Rumble in France. So I would just do videos for BitChute, simply for the reason that some guy in France might not be able to see my videos on Rumble. So I would do Rumble and I would do BitChute. And yeah, that was my plan. But the suspension was canceled and the strike on the channel was rescinded. So what does this tell me? Well, for one thing, it's quite obvious, right? YouTube is a huge company. It's a huge corporation with buildings all throughout the world. And so there's a lot of employees working in YouTube. And there's a whole bunch of people in their review board who are activists. They are people in YouTube who are using their job, who are using their position, which is to get rid of content that goes against TOS, to be activists. They use their position as a form of activism, which means getting rid of videos that disagrees with their position, regardless if they don't break the rules. Regardless of that, they want to be activists, and so they want to get rid of videos that goes against their worldview. And that's it. So the only people who went against the terms of service in this case were the people who got rid of my video, or the person working in YouTube who got rid of my video and canceled my appeal or rejected my appeal. Because Donnie, who spoke with me, he helped get my video back, and he helped to cancel my 2-week suspension, which means that YouTube is diverse in opinions, and not everyone there is being an activist. And in this case, the rules, the policy of YouTube was to my own favor. And the fact that it was determined that I did not break the terms of service really shows that there are people in YouTube who break the terms of service by telling people wrongfully that they're breaking the terms of service and penalizing them for not breaking the terms of service, but accusing them of breaking the terms of service. So there's a lot of people abusing their position in YouTube. There's a lot of people abusing their position in YouTube. And they hate Israel, and they're pro-Palestine, and they sympathize with Gaza, they sympathize with Hamas, they sympathize with terrorism, and so they use their position for activism work. Oh, this video is critical of Gaza, critical of Hamas, is sympathetic to Israel, making arguments in support of Israel. Cancel them. Get rid of them. That's how these people think. Well, the person has made an appeal. Reject the appeal. And that's it. But when the video was reviewed again for the second time, they said, no, this video does not break the rules. So who really broke the rules here? It was the activists in YouTube. That's who's breaking the rules. They are people in YouTube who are breaking the rules while accusing you of breaking the rules. So they accuse you of breaking the rules, and they break the rules by striking your channel. And then they say you're breaking the rules. They're the ones breaking the rules. I've been quite careful with this channel. I don't want to see this channel disappear. Why? Because I've been using this channel since 2019, I think. And I've had a lot of fun, and I've met some very interesting people, and I've been seeing this audience grow, and I've really enjoyed watching this audience grow and meeting interesting people on the live streams, meeting interesting people through the comments section. It's a lot of fun. The internet is a really cool place. There's a lot of people out there, who are like, the internet is just ruining the world. No, it's not the internet that's ruining the world. It's people who use the internet to ruin the world. It's like people who, blame violence on guns. It's guns. Well, it's evil people who use guns for evil purposes. Not really the guns' fault. Anyway, yeah, the internet's a really cool place, and I love being on the internet. I'm not terminally online. I prevent myself from being terminally online by gardening and cooking and doing other things. I'm not terminally online. I don't abuse the internet. I don't allow the internet to control me. I use the internet as a tool, just like iPhones. You don't have to let the iPhone rule your life. You can use the iPhone as a tool. And so the internet is such a cool place in the sense that I can express my opinions, express my views, and at the same time meet very interesting people. It's really, really, really cool. It's really beautiful. But they are people who use the internet to spread hatred, and this is an inevitability. This is inevitable because even before the internet, people were spreading hatred. They were using newspapers and books and pamphlets to spread hatred against certain people. So this is inevitable. This is very inevitable. And you have a bunch of people out there who are like, oh my God, Israel is a genocidal country. 21% of Israel is Arab. They are Arabs in the Israeli parliament, which is known as the Knesset. And there was a story that I read today that I found quite interesting. In 2005, Israel pretty much disconnected itself from Gaza. They left Gaza, they pulled all of the Jewish settlements out of Gaza, and they said, here you go. Palestinians, you want Gaza for yourselves? Have at it. And literally days after Israel left, Hamas launched rockets into Israel. And the Jews left about 500 acres of greenhouses in Gaza. And what did the Palestinians do as soon as the Jews left? As soon as Gaza became Jew-free, they looted the greenhouses. They didn't use the greenhouses. 500 acres. These are huge greenhouses, guys. 500 acres worth of greenhouses. You can grow a hell of a lot of food in 500 acres, especially 500 acres of greenhouses. And what do the Palestinians do? What do the Gazans do as soon as the Israelis leave? They looted the greenhouses. They looted the greenhouses. What kind of a society acts this way? It's not a healthy society. It's a dysfunctional culture that is plagued with a dysfunctional ideology. And there was an interesting story that I read today. It was the story of Dania. So back in 2005, as Israel is facilitating the Jewish withdrawing from Gaza in 2005, there was this Bedouin village called Dania. Dania was a Bedouin Arab village that was pro-Israel. And Dania became a transit point by which Palestinians who wanted to work with Israel could go into Israel. So they would go through Dania. So Dania was a safe place for Palestinians who were pro-Israel. And so here was Israel leaving Gaza. Dania was under the protection of Israel, under the Israeli occupation, this evil occupation, right? It's genocidal. They want to ethnically cleanse all the Arabs, blah, 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 blah. And Dania told Israel, listen, if you guys leave Gaza, if you guys just leave us here, we are dead. The Gazans are going to murder us. Hamas, the Islamists, will murder us because they consider all of the Arabs who live in Dania as collaborators. And Israel's initial plan was just to let these guys dry in Gaza. Just let them stay in Gaza. And the Bedouins said, no, if you leave us here, we are all dead, and we have been loyal to Israel. And the Bedouins of Dania went all the way up to the Israeli Supreme Court. And they said, if you guys abandon us in Gaza, we are all dead. And the Israeli Supreme Court sided with the Bedouin Arabs. This is why you need the Supreme Court in Israel. Netanyahu wants to make the Supreme Court basically impotent. But this is why you need a Supreme Court to balance against the other departments of government. And the Supreme Court sided with the Bedouin Arabs. And Israel brought all of the Arabs of Dania into Israel where they live today. So Israel saved those Arab people's lives, prevented them from being massacred. And if Israel was so bad and the Gazans were so great, why would the Dahanian Arabs prefer to live in Israel rather than amongst their fellow Palestinians, amongst their fellow Arabs? And why is it that after Israel left Gaza, literally thousands upon thousands of Palestinians left Gaza? And in just a matter of months, 10,000 Palestinians left Gaza, and tens of thousands of Gazans were preparing to leave Gaza. Tens of thousands of Palestinians wanted to leave Gaza when Israel left. Why? Why? If Israel is so bad, so genocidal, they want to ethnically cleanse all the Arabs. 21% of Israel is Arab. They are Arabs in the Knesset. How in the hell can you sit there and argue that Israel is this genocidal, ethnically cleansing, bent country? And amazingly, you have Arabs in Israel who are Israeli citizens. And you have countries like Jordan, where you have Palestinian refugees who aren't citizens of the countries that they live in. And the Arab countries that Palestinians live in refuse to allow Palestinians to become citizens. Yet in Israel, they are allowed to become citizens. And you have these evil, malicious people who want to reverse the reality. They want to say, no. Israel is the one that's genocidal, but it's Israel that allows Palestinians to become citizens. And it's the Arab countries who refuse to allow Palestinians to become citizens of their countries. And why is this? It's because they know that as long as these Palestinians are refugees living in their countries, they can make the argument, these people need to return back to Israel. And that would give those Arab countries like Jordan an argument to lay claim on the territories that they lost when they were defeated by Israel in the past. That's all it is. The Palestinians are the political pawns of the Islamic world in the Middle East. That's how it is. That's the sad reality of this all. And you have people who want to kill the Jews because they believe this nonsense that Israel is a genocidal country. They believe this nonsense. And so they want to kill the Jews. In other words, they say we hate Israel because Israel is genocidal and Israel wants to ethnically cleanse Arabs. And yet they want to commit genocide on the Jews. And they will cheer and support Hamas because Hamas slaughtered Jewish people. And this was the evil that I was speaking out against. And someone on YouTube said that I was spreading hatred. Obvious bullshit. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.